ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ ਰੂਬੀ ਸੋਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇਨਕੰਬੈਂਟ ਐਮਪੀ ਨੇ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਨਾਰਥ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੋਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਵੇਖਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੇਅਰ ਨੇ ਪੈਟਰਿਕ ਬਰਾਊਨ ਨੇ ਸਲੋਗਨ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਨੇ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਫਸਟ ਤੇ ਫੇਅਰ ਸ਼ੇਪ ਆਫ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਐਮਪੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਹੱਥ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਯੋਗਦਾਨ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ 4 ਸਾਲਾਂ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਯੋਗਦਾਨ ਪਾਇਆ। Ruby ji, welcome to the show here. So I would like to ask you a simple question. Patrick Brown, he's a very aggressive mayor, you know that. And he's doing good for the last 1 year. He's tried to pull the city together, pull the council together. And he has given slogans, Fair Share for Brampton, Brampton First. So how do you see these two slogans?
I think we've heard these slogans for a long time in Brampton. We know that, especially when it comes to healthcare, the right amounts have not been allocated to Brampton. The LIN that covered this area was not receiving as much money. But I can tell you that from the federal level, the province of Ontario not only receives the most money, which obviously according to its population it should, but not only that, it also receives the most money per person in the country. So Ontario from the federal government in this last year has received the most money, almost close to $1,500 per person, which is more than the per person amount that Quebec gets or BC gets or any other province or territory gets. We give more per person. That money is then allocated from the province down to their municipalities, the LINs, however they want to do it. Why Brampton is not getting its fair share, I agree with Patrick Brown. I definitely agree that we should be getting our fair share. When the federal government is giving per person funding down to the province, then why is it not being spread, allocated equally? It should be.
Well, it should be, you know, because Brampton is getting only around $700 per person, and Toronto is getting $2,800, Hamilton is getting $1,500. So this is a kind of discrepancy which people are not accepting any longer in Brampton. They started to ask questions of the elected representatives, and those representatives include you also, Ruby, right? And that is why, you know, people keep on asking questions, and they couldn't understand the fact that why is it that Brampton is getting a step-motherly treatment. And they want the member of parliament to be more aggressive in trying to bridge the gap between the city and the federal and the provincial also, if possible, you know, because we know there's a different government there. But with the elections due on 21st of October, hopefully a new government will come in place. Maybe it is the same liberal government which comes up with the new ministers and all that. But I think there should be a better working relationship between the federal and the provincial governments. What do you say to that?
Absolutely. I think we had similar priorities in the past. But projects, I would think I first want to highlight that everyone should work together, and I'm more than willing to work with the municipality, the MPPs at the provincial level to try to get Brampton its fair share and to try to get good services for our people, whether it's youth or seniors or families. But projects, when a city plans projects, the city should have and does have ultimate control as to how they want to zone their areas in their city, what projects they would like to see go forward. I've been working closely with the city in the last 4 years, and I don't think anyone can dispute that my office and all the federal MPs have not consistently been available for the city. From my office, we've all constantly sent updates on any stream of funding, and we had historic amounts of funding at the federal level. And these are conversations we often had with our municipal counterparts, that these funding streams are open. And under the provincial government, the previous provincial government, they were also open. But unfortunately, we were seeing no projects come forward. Now, in the last 1 year, the transit stream has been closed by the provincial Doug Ford Conservative government. They are not accepting applications. When they opened the stream, they waited for the National Treasury Board to close at the federal level at the end of June. And then in the middle of July, they opened their transit funding stream, meaning they were willing to open to take projects. After being in government for over a year, they were not willing to accept any projects. So yes, we've had 4 times the number of projects in this country from a federal level than we've seen with the previous government. I hope that in the years to come, we can work with the city and they can give us really good projects because there's lots of different streams, whether it's recreation centers, whether it's multicultural spaces, sports facilities, transit, infrastructure, wastewater management, flood mitigation, like the Riverwalk project is a great project. We've been contributing from the federal level to every project that has been put forward. I hope to see more projects in the future. Unfortunately, there's only so many projects that the council was able to agree on in this last 4 years, whether it was the past council or the present council. And I look forward to seeing a Brampton that I think is going in the right direction, because we are talking big now. We are talking about getting another post-secondary institution here maybe in the future. We've got the new cybersecurity center. Our government has also invested a lot in artificial intelligence. So companies like Magna have benefited from that. We've also revived our space agencies. We have MDA in our city. MDA is a big company that is doing a lot when it comes to space exploration. We funded their Canada Arm 3. And these are high-paying, really good jobs. We have seen an increase in jobs in the city, and it's because our vision at the federal level has not been stuck on focusing on things that don't matter to Canadians. I think what matters to Canadians is jobs, the economy, a good environment, having good affordability, and we're working on those issues in our new platform as well with the home buyers tax incentive. And many other things. So I think when I talk to constituents, that's what's important. They want to see more development. In the past, we were not listening to scientists by the Harper government either. We should believe in what scientists are telling us when it comes to climate change, when it comes to research and development, and we should invest in those areas. That's how we're going to see growth in the sectors that we want to see growth in.
Well, Ruby, I think the Nobel Prize was announced a couple of days ago. And one of the environmental scientists who worked on the costing of this environment, he got a Nobel Prize for that. And that says the volumes about, the deniability of climate change, because we cannot deny it any longer, right? But some of the parties like the Conservatives and the People's Party, they're in denial about it. But that's a different issue altogether. When you go door knocking, do you find that climate change is an issue with people? Do they ask you some questions about it?
Absolutely. I find that a lot of more people are talking about climate change today. A lot of young students and young people, it's the first thing on their mind. They're having these conversations at home. I've had many people tell me that they are going to vote for the party that is willing to do something, because we are the last generation that can do something about this. If I, as a representative, or even you as a media person, or as just a normal citizen, doesn't take action and do something about this today, then our children or our grandchildren are going to wonder why we were sleeping on this issue and didn't do anything when we had the chance. We are going to have to answer to them for destroying their earth. So we better take action now. And our party has, put forward the most practical solution. Like you said, Nobel Prize winners have the plan that they have put forward is a plan that we are endorsing. It is the most affordable plan. At the end of the day, I know Shearer is saying, I'm going to cancel the price on pollution, but it's going to end up costing Canadians more, because the incentives that he's talking about is going to be more money in taxpayer dollars. And also the cost of the environment is going to be more, because it's not going to accomplish as much. We have very aggressive targets. We want to get to net zero emissions. The city of Brampton also wants to get to net zero emissions. So they need
by 2050.
By 2050. And if the city doesn't have a partner at the federal level, then it's going to be very difficult for them to do this by themselves.
I have a question for you. We are hearing a lot about the hospital, or the lack of hospital, a second hospital. And people are kind of confused here. They don't know what the due process is to get in the hospital. So of course, they will keep on saying we want a hospital because they need it. But what is the due process? How does the process start? From bottom up, or it's a top-heavy process, it's a bottom-heavy? What is it like?
Well, healthcare is administered by our provinces. The federal government gives a transfer in healthcare dollars to the province. We have upped our healthcare transfer. We renegotiated the transfers, and we have given more. We're giving at a 4.1% of the GDP, where before it used to be 3 under Stephen Harper. Right now, Scheer has also only committed to 3%, which means $1.5 billion in cuts to healthcare transfers. Right now, we were seeing progress in our city. Yes, we haven't gotten enough. Yes, we don't have our fair share. But by having Brampton Civic and by having Peel Memorial at least open up for the services that they are, I think it should be a full hospital, but right now it isn't. By having Erin Oaks, that's helping with kids with disabilities and autism, that's great progress. And we need to do more, I agree. But right now, what we're seeing from the provincial government is they're cutting healthcare workers. They're cutting the services given at Erin Oaks. They're cutting. So to talk about us building a new hospital when the province that we have, the provincial government we have elected, is only talking about cuts and they're talking about balancing the budget, well, then it's not possible. So it's interesting that Jagmeet Singh was, a member at the provincial level. So I feel he should be well versed on the provincial issues. And he understands full well that this is a provincial matter and the province would have to initiate this project. The province would have to sign off on it, just like a university. They have to approve it. We can give them more funding, yes, but they have to approve it. And right now, Doug Ford has not been willing to even take the money we're giving for other projects, such as transit, such as gangs and gun funding that we had provided. They were not willing to take the funding at that point. So, I think maybe Doug Ford, once if we are reelected, he will be more willing to work with us at that point because we have heard him give statements about that. And perhaps he was holding back on taking certain steps because he was waiting to see if he could help the federal conservatives in this election. So I think it's a little bit of politics that's taking place. But at the end of the day, we all need to think about Bramptonians, about what's best for Canadians, and work together. And we're definitely there to work with them. But to make a bold promise that the federal government can alone build something like that without the province approving it, it's not done. And so we will continue to have a lot of money in our infrastructure streams so that projects like this can get built. And I want to work with the city. I hope the city and the province can find a similar page when it comes to healthcare and we can move forward and start advancing some of these projects. What we're seeing right now is we're going backwards. We're not even advancing. We're starting to go backwards a little bit. So that's unfortunate.
Well, it's nice to see you speaking responsibly on this issue. And I was referring to Jagmeet Singh's statement that he will sanction a second hospital, and that is a priority. Well, you pointed out it's a provincial, responsibility, and federals can't, But the issue is that people would like to see hospital come up. So my understanding after talking to you and a few more MPs is that the hospital has to be proposed by the city of Brampton. They have bottoms up. They have to earmark a area for that, a plot of land for that. And then they have to build a project for that, do some studies. And that project report has to be submitted to the provincial as well the federal authorities. And then a lobbying, and that is where you do come in, with the lobbying process. And has this process been kick-started?
No, I've been an MP for 4 years, and not once has it come up across my desk at all. The projects that have come up to us, the projects we have been lobbied on, we delivered on every single one. Even the projects that were stuck because they required provincial funding and funding streams were closed by the new Conservative provincial government. Even those projects at the last minute, we doubled our funding in those projects. We paid for the Doug Ford's share in those projects, and we approved them so that the city's planning wouldn't fall behind. So I'm open and welcome more projects to come. But every project I have seen come across my desk that I've been made aware of, all of those projects have been approved by our government. The previous government also approved most of all of those projects and was giving quite a lot of money for an LRT, fully funded, 100%. I know the provincial government was. It's unfortunate that project was not acceptable to the city council at that time. That's fine. We can move on from that issue and figure out what routes they are interested in, what project they do want to see forward. And that's why it's important for municipalities to have control over these projects, to submit to us what they want to see for their city. And then, of course, we will advocate for any project that the city wants to see that they think is practical, feasible, where we can all contribute and work and get done and built successfully.
Well, Ruby, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. The one last issue is the transit. So we're looking at Vaughan. Now we always look to Vaughan. We look to Mississauga. Mississauga is well connected, and Vaughan also got a underground, LRT now in place. And is it possible for the Vaughan LRT? I'm talking to you not as an MP or like a candidate, but just as a citizen of Brampton. Would you love to see that LRT or the tube, underground tube coming into Brampton along the same street? Because it is possible.
I think from what happened with the LRT project in the past, I think it's best for me not to have an opinion on how this project, whether it goes overground or underground or around the city and back. I think the city should decide. We have representatives there. The councillors are there with a city planning department behind them that has the expertise to know what makes practical sense, what they should be proposing, what the environmental assessments have said to them. And I'm more than willing to work on any project that they think is the best project for the city. So in the past, we've seen where other levels of governments have tried to impose their own projects on the city, and the city doesn't like that. So I'm happy, and I want to see what the city wants, and then we'll work on getting that funding for them.
Here we are having Ruby Sota being very upfront about her views on the transit. She doesn't want to, like federal and provincial and city, there are 3 levels of government. Every level has its own functions. And Ruby Sota, as a member of parliament, she doesn't want to comment on the functions of the city of Brampton. And we appreciate that. But at the same time, we would like to have the city comprehensive transit plan in place for the next 10, 15, 20 years. As also for a new hospital, a new plan has to be done by the city of Brampton. Like we had a zero tax here, right? Patrick Brown announced a zero tax. So zero tax is only possible if we have funds flowing in from various projects and they offset the tax increases. Let us say the tax increase is $30 million. We are looking at a 4% increase, but we have funds coming in, so we can announce a zero tax. Maybe next year it might not be possible, right? So it's all.
Well, it was, if you ask them, it was possible because we gave them double the gas tax transfer. Okay. When they were having a shortfall in some transit projects from the province, we doubled, and this money, the gas tax transfer, is supposed to be used for infrastructure money. But because they're in their budget, they were able to use the doubling of the money for that purpose. They were able to free up money in the budget to freeze property tax. So Patrick Brown himself has credited the federal government in allowing them, giving them the ability to freeze property tax. In our proposal of our platform, this is going to be permanent now going forward. So Brampton is going to continue to receive more money. It's about $3 billion across the country for different municipalities. And in that, Brampton will receive even more than last time in the gas tax transfer. So I hope if the city budgets things differently, then we might be able to see more of that. But it depends on what other projects come forward and how the city, balances their priorities.
Well, thank you very much. I think we have had a lot of information flowing back and forth during this interview, and we do hope our viewers will, follow this up and see where it goes, and put more pressure on on our councillors and the city of Brampton, so that these projects are concepted, visualized, and they take off, in the near future. From Ruby Sota, who is a candidate from Brampton North, she is willing to work with the city of Brampton on this, and she says she has been working already with the city of Brampton for the last 4 years, and she's willing to do that, continue doing that. And thank you very much, Ruby, for being with us. It's a wonderful interview.
Thank you.
And it's very seldom we find such frank politicians like you. And thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you. I want to thank you and your whole team. You guys do a fantastic job at bringing important issues to light for the viewers.
Thank you very much.